Hello, we are Group B, which is made up of Liz, Marina, Sue, Antonio, Cassidy, and me. And today, from Group B, Cassidy, Liz, and me will be presenting this topic of AI and the future of performance management. We're going to be focusing on three specific topics. First, we'll try to make an intro on this main issue of artificial intelligence in performance management. Then we will talk a bit about some companies and some topics and trends they've already implemented in terms of AI in performance management. And finally, we will share with you some interesting data points on this topic. So to start with the intro of AR and the future of performance management, the first thing is why AI? There's no denying that AI can help enhance complex decision-making processes, and it can also simplify time-consuming tasks. So these are completed efficiently. And the thing is, with AI and machine learning, organizations can analyze the data that has been gathered about how employees work and behave and use it to predict and drive decisions that can help allocate resources, monitor their performance, and overall make the workplace better. So in the next slide, we'll be showing how it is helping specifically in performance management, and we're focusing on three things. First, how it's helping with pattern recognition and monitoring to better decision-making progress. We all know that companies are working on collecting more and more data to make decisions. So there's also a need to find a way to process this data. And that is where AI comes in, because it can help find trends and patterns, which are critical to understand this data that has been collected, and also to detect patterns quickly that can help pivot fast in order to counteract obstacles or negative trends in employee behaviors or the decisions that they're making that are ultimately impacting their performance. The other thing that we want to share is how it has also helped in the feedback department. Companies, we also know, and we discussed it in our last class, are looking for much more frequent and agile, open, and collaborative feedback, because this is critical to drive performance. So in this stance, AI is helping because, well, it helps drive assessments in real time, and it helps also have incentives and praise for good performance to be shared out immediately. And it also tells us when targets are not being met and performance standards are sleeping. So these kind of interventions can take place before the problem grows and becomes unmanageable. So by having this timely information, what we can do is managers in this case can make faster decisions. And in companies such as IBM, where they have already implemented chatbots, they can learn and advise employees on how to delve with this performance issues. And while they're doing this, they are also generating analytics to monitor how helpful the advice can be. So in other words, they're given feedback and they're also getting feedback on that feedback that they're giving. And finally, it's also helping in the coaching department. And here we have a specific example. There's a company called LeadX Inc., which launched Coach Amanda. This is an executive coach virtual assistant powered by IBM Watson artificial intelligence. And what this bot does is that it serves tips 24/7 on ways to increase employee engagement, delegation, how to give feedback, how to have a one-on-one, how to do coaching. So what it does is that it uses the user's response over time to select and time the best coaching tips it's giving. And before we talked a bit more on companies and how they're doing it, we also wanted to share on the next slide some of the risks associated with AI. So we have four main points. The first one is bias. Machine learning algorithms identify patterns and codify them in predictions, rules, decisions. So if these patterns reflect on some existing bias, the algorithms are likely to amplify it. That's the first one. And on the second one, on the same train of thought, because AI systems rely on data, the data has to be, or in this case, cannot be biased, cannot be incomplete, cannot be of poor quality, because the outcome is going to depend on that. Another point will be that we have to take care of our AI systems, because they're most likely to be targeted when thinking of stealing personal data or very sensitive confidential information, because it's what they it's what they gather and what they work on. And finally, although right now there's little legislation governing AI, that is set to change. Again, we already said that AI runs on large amounts of sensitive data. So any system that is biased or error prone or hacked or used for unethical purposes can pose a significant reputational risk or a legal liability to the organizations. So now we're going to talk about real companies and cases where AI has been implemented in the performance management process.
So some companies that are currently using this, for instance, Cogito, they developed a software that uses AI to monitor customer service conversations, including factors like tone of voice, pitch, speed of speech. And for instance, if the customer service agents are speaking too fast or too slow, a notification could appear at the bottom of their screen to tell them to speed up or slow down. If they sound bored or sleepy, it can remind them to be more energetic. Or if it detects that the caller's voice sounds angry, it suggests the agent to show more empathy and try to relate to the caller. Call centers from MetLife have implemented the software, and first call resolution has gone up by 3.5%, and customer satisfaction has increased by 13%. However, MetLife has confirmed that data from Cogito does not have any effect on employees' reviews. At EY, they worked with IBM and their Watson software to develop an AI-based cognitive chatbot called Goldie. This pairs with EY's SuccessFactors performance management solution to find answers to performance management questions. More than 500,000 questions were answered in the first 28 days, freeing up the EY talent teams to focus on more complex needs of their employees. They achieved the ROI in the first 7 days of implementation. IBM are our AI superstars. So we know that AI can be used for good or used for bad. But when it's used well, it can have amazing benefits for the company and their employees. And IBM shows us how this is done. So they've been using their Watson algorithms to build a suite of AI tools. These are used to evaluate employees and prepare them for internal mobility and career advancement. In fact, IBM states that Watson's AI can predict employees' future performance with 96% accuracy. They have predictive attrition program, which can predict employee flight risk with a 95% accuracy, and then recommend actions for managers to engage those employees through further training or well-deserved promotions. By using their AI suite of tools, they found that manager reviews had often been subjective and inaccurate. Their technology can actually view employees' current tasks, courses they've completed, and any rankings they've received, which enables HR managers to have a better understanding of employee skills than they would have had from managers' performance review feedback. So they decided to get rid of the annual performance review altogether and instead assess employees on skills growth during quarterly feedback and check-ins. They have Micah, IBM's My Career Advisor, which is an AI virtual assistant which helps employees to see where they need to improve their skills and recommends trainings to them to bridge those gaps. They also have Blue Match, which is a companion platform. It's a place where employees can put their attributes, likes and dislikes, and suggest internal job openings to employees based on their skills data. It also works the other way around, where managers put up a profile of what they need, and it offers a list of internal candidates that match their needs. Over 50,000 employees have already opted into the program and receive weekly notifications of potential job matches within the company. As of 2019, 1,500 employees had already shifted to new roles internally. Another program they have is called Cognipay. This uses AI to help managers make better compensation decisions based on performance data, what competitors pay for similar jobs, and also on market demand for similar skills. The analysis also includes internal forecasted demands for these skills and voluntary attrition of employees with those same skills. So far, they estimate that Cognipay recommendations have reduced attrition by 50%. So next up, we will be talking about some further data.
That's right, Cassidy. Thank you. So we've discussed a lot about AR, some of the best practices and implementations in the workplace, and some of the companies that are just leading and changing performance management as we know it. So AI is changing the relationship between people and technology at work. And there's been a lot of conversations and some common fears of how of how AI will kind of disrupt HR and also impact some jobs. But some research found by Oracle in their Future and Workplace report actually found that 65% of workers are optimistic, excited, and grateful about having robots co-workers. And this has a lot to do with efficiency, with their managers, with just finding the available resources and contacting at the moment. Also, 64% reported in 2019 in the same study that they would trust a robot over their manager for advice. Now, mind you, in this study specifically, it was related to technical advice. And it was in instances that maybe the manager wasn't available, so they would just reach out to a robot to probably get the same or a similar answer that they would from their manager, and it wouldn't like delay their day or their responsibility that they had to do for a job. And then also another report says that 50% of workers are currently using some form of AI at work compared to only 32% in 2018. And I think this is why also workers are more confident and more enthusiastic about AI in the workplace, because they've had some years of transitioning and getting adjusted into what AI is. And then we also found some information directly aligned with AI for high performers and how that relates to their compensation. So specifically, AI can influence someone's pay increase. And Cassidy's part talked more about that, about the recommendations that it can be done to managers. But what was particularly interesting is that data showed that giving a certain group, so specifically in these high performers, a 10% raise would reduce their flight risk by 90%. And particularly even more important is that managers who didn't take this advice had attrition rates in their teams that were twice as high than those who did. So it's not just about how we evaluate people and their recommendations, but also what predictive technology can tell us about what will happen in the future of our teams. And then some final thoughts and recommendations about a little bit of everything we've discussed is that AI can be used for both good and bad, but when used well, it can have amazing benefits for the companies and their employees. Several companies are using AI very successfully in performance management. And though there are some fears about job loss regarding the implementation of AI, research has actually found that AI will create more jobs in technology. So overall, AI is here to stay. Organizations need to find a way to simplify and secure artificial intelligence to stay competitive and relevant in the workplace. Thank you.